Cyclone Sean blows up near Western Australia. Well, it's been pretty well forecasted, but it is actually happening. Rapid intensification inside Cyclone Sean off the northwestern tip of Australia this evening, late evening local time. It's a 20.5 south, 113.4 degrees east, and it will be grazing the coast as it moves off towards the southwest over the next couple of days. Currently with winds of 85 miles per hour estimated, 135 kilometers per hour sustained, and a pressure estimate of 976 millibars, moving southwest at 12 miles per hour or 18 kilometers per hour. This is the latest as of 11 p.m. local time, Australian Western Standard Time that is, and here is the storm's location on the map. So wind field extending out up to 160 nautical miles on that southeastern quadrant, which is going to be really affecting that northwestern tip of Australia there. Cyclone warning in effect for Wim Creek to Ningaloo, including Karratha, Onslow and Exmouth. These locations could get some fairly strong winds, although the most destructive winds should be remaining offshore. It is 176 kilometers from Exmouth, 222 from Onslow, 250 from Ningaloo, 297 from Coral Bay and 488 kilometers north of Carnarvon. Well, the storm will be pushing out towards the southwest, meaning that most of the impacts will be behind us by the time we get to tomorrow morning. But currently, heavy rainfall overnight could cause flash flooding between Roebourne and Mardy overnight, according to the Bureau of Meteorology, and on the northwest Cape on Monday. Damaging winds possible for the coastline if the storm track shifts southwards slightly. Of course, if it blows up in its winds more as well, that could push out that wind field, and so we could get some stronger winds on land for a time as well. Well, let's take a look at the forecast then over the next 5 or 7 days here, and you can see that wind field balloons up a little bit. The storm peaks probably late Monday or early Tuesday. We're expecting it probably to get to high-end Category 2 on the Saffir Simpson Scale. That would be well into Category 3 on the Australian scale, or 4 even. And then later on, the remnants of the storm, you can see they're scraping the southwesterly tip of Australia as well, just south of Perth by the time we get to Friday or Saturday. That is still speculative at the moment. It could still dive further south or miss completely. Well, currently 85 mile per hour winds, Bureau of Meteorology and JWC a little bit lower there, but we've gone a bit higher owing to the storm's good appearance at the minute, and it appears to continuing to be rapidly intensifying. So we're giving that 85 mile per hour estimate right now, and I fully expect that we're going to see those intensities raise up over the next few hours as well. Well, there's the latest Bureau of Meteorology map and cone there. They're saying it's a Category 2 on the Australian scale right now and calling for a Category 3 by tomorrow morning. Barrow Island, the only area there underneath the what they call destructive winds, but the northern tip there just off Exmouth could also just about end up in that zone overnight. So keep watching closely in those areas. Areas south of Ningaloo may still get tropical storm force winds. We'll have to keep watching there, and possible extensions to the warning zone. Well, here's the GFS cone showing that the storm will be moving off towards the southwest there. It stalls for a bit. It's already post-tropical there, and then it continues on towards the southeast, eventually reaching the Perth area with some fresh winds, but probably nothing too crazy. It might in fact be a nice little reliever for that area there, but the storm will blow itself out by the time it gets around the 23rd of January there, but its peak will be just after it passes the coast in about 24 to 48 hours. We expect it to get probably towards Category 4 on the Australian scale. Well, there it is in terms of the rainfall distribution. You can see that big tail extending out towards the south there, and it really all gets compressed into that big line of rainfall. Most of it stays offshore. Some of it does pull inwards on the 25th, but only a little bit really, not a huge amount of rainfall for those areas. Of course, we are looking at very heavy rainfall being unleashed on that southern side of the storm right now, being swept along the Exmouth and Onslow area tonight. So we're going to be keeping an eye on whether that causes any significant flooding issues. Looking at the total rainfall expectations, surely we've seen worse storms than this, but we are looking nonetheless at rainfall totals of over 4 inches most likely in a few spots. That's 100 millimeters. Let's take a look at the actual totals there that we're looking at. Obviously offshore it's going to be higher, but yep, getting up above maybe 6 inches there. That's 150 millimeters for 1 or 2 interior locations near Port Hedland, and getting up towards 8 or 9 inches out to sea near where the center of the storm is, where all of its power is being unleashed right now. But overall, this storm is going to be providing a glancing hit. It's not going to be a direct impact, and then it will continue southwards. A lot of rain spewing out there off Western Australia too later on. Sea surface temperatures are good. Of course, they drop off a cliff when the storm ends up shooting off southwest of Western Australia there. But at the moment, these are Fahrenheit. I'll convert to Celsius. It's around 28 or 29 degrees Celsius, and these read a little bit low as well. It's probably higher than that at this time, probably 30 degrees, although they'll drop very quickly to around 22 or 23 degrees in the next 48 to 72 hours. And that's the main reason this storm is going to capitulate very quickly by the time we get to early or into the midweek. Here's the satellite imagery then. This is what we saw on the opening titles of tonight's video, and you can see the storm is trying to push out that eye. The southern side maybe looking a little bit flaky there on that imagery, but it seems to have a decent core going. It looks like it is trying to finish wrapping up that eye wall. Maybe a little weakness on that southeasterly side there, maybe a dry air slot, but I think it's going to get itself sorted. I think it will briefly have a decent eye for a while, but it doesn't have a huge amount of time, and so it probably won't last particularly long. Here's some more imagery from the Force 13 website. You can take a look at this imagery live, force13.com/satellite. Normally we'd have our automated stream running, but Force 13 HQ will be closing tomorrow, so we'll be returning with that in February. But you'll be able to track it all on the website. So really high cloud tops in this storm is another big story on this one, well into the -90s there, and sometimes some of those hot towers exploding on the northern side. At times we've seen cloud top temperatures approaching -100 degrees Celsius. You can see it there. Those white areas, that's -90s. Very impressive to see that in tropical cyclones. Usually happens around the Australian region more commonly than other areas. And this is a wider shot showing the full picture of the storm there. Quite a compact system. It's not huge, but it is throwing out winds up to 160 nautical miles, that southeastern quadrant. There's some late visible images as the storm's been progressing. Generally southwesterly track, paralleling the coast. If that, it's probably going to start pulling away pretty soon if it isn't doing so already, and most of the storm's impacts will be over by the time we get to tomorrow, apart from some leftover rainfall which could cause a little bit more flooding issues over the course of Monday. And finally, some radar imagery showing what the storm's been looking like there, throwing really heavy rainfall into the coast there, so you get the trail of rain possibly causing some flooding in that area as well.